Oh, how did you guys get it? Oh, no. Great. Welcome to the Trails Committee meeting, February 10th. I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:14. We have quorum. I will do a roll call vote for those attending. Please let me know that you're here when I call your name. Tom McCoolier.
Here.
Satyendra Sharma.
Yes.
Isabella Bogdansky.
Here.
And Kat McKee here. Great. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for coming. I do believe Will Warren will be coming, and Tony Schoner said he could attend, but he may be having connection issues as well, so we'll give them a shot, or they may be joining us shortly. Sam Stivers and Tim Litt, for the record, Sati, are visitors.
Okay.
Okay. And then Tom, if you don't mind helping me watch hands raised, I believe the chat feature has been disabled.
Yeah, well,
So we may or may not be able to see it.
can
Okay.
anybody, I just chatted people. Can anybody see it?
Yes, I can see it.
All right, so chat is not disabled, but we're not supposed to use it.
It's our secret. Okay, in a public meeting. So the first order of business is to approve the minutes from our last meeting on January 20th. Has everyone had an opportunity to review? And if not, can I pull them up and would you like to see them?
Yes, I think it will be good to see.
Pull them up. Okay, great. Let me share my screen. First, let me find them. Great. Okay, now you should be seeing the minutes from January 20.
The only change I have is that next meeting thing, not meeting in February.
But we're not. In January the 20th, we decided we weren't going to meet. Do you want me to rephrase that?
Oh, when did we decide on this one?
That was during the last meeting. Yeah.
Well, I searched it. We decided not to at the end of last meeting to meet. We decided not to meet in February because we had been meeting so many times. We were going to take a break, and then opportunity knocked and decided that, or I'd reached out to everybody and tried to push for February anyways, because we have a deadline for the ARPA project submissions by the 15th.
Yep, so I'm fine with the minutes.
So do we need to, for amendment, do we need to take a vote or something?
Well, we're not going to amend them because this is a record of what happened on the 20th.
Okay.
So as of on the 20th, we weren't going to meet, and then we can reflect that we were meeting on our next meeting minutes because this is now our discussion. So I'm going to rename Will. Thanks for joining us, Will. Okay, great. And so any other edits or questions about the minutes? If not, can someone make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 20th as presented.
I second it.
Great. And let me do a roll call. When I call your name, let me know that you agree or disagree. Tom McCoolier.
Agree, yay, yes.
Satyendra Sharma.
Yes.
Isabella Bogdansky.
Agree.
And Kat McKee, yes. Great, thank you. Okay, so stop share. Now, what's next on our agenda? It is to talk about the, just a quick recap of the Mass Trails Grant application. So thank you, first of all, everyone who participated and helped collaborate, get quotes for over a year, CPA, prep, all that stuff that got us here, reviewing the application, all of that. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. So with a little drama, we submitted on the 1st. As I mentioned in the email, we had it errored out, the system errored out, but we received confirmation that our application was received. So that's good. And in the end, we ended up with 22 letters of support from the community and organizations, legislators, and to stakeholders. And then in addition, I believe there was another letter of support submitted on our behalf from the founder of the Bay Circuit Alliance, Alan French. So that was nice to hear, and a surprise. We didn't, that didn't come through us. So nice to know that others are supporting the project. So we'll see. Now we have to wait until July for the review process, and they'll make awards if there aren't any delays in that time frame. So yeah, so I think that's the piece. Any comment or thoughts or discussion?
No, but thank you, Catherine.
Yeah.
You did put in a lot of time and effort.
Right.
Catherine, I'm assuming that it's still not too late to submit the SPAC letter.
I'm not sure. I don't know what the after timeline is. It doesn't hurt if SPAC, I know they just reconfigured and voted in a new chair, and that was part of the delay. And if they want to submit on as a letter, I don't think it would hurt. So thank you.
No, we voted unanimously to submit a letter, so we'll go ahead and do that. Do you want to mail it to the person?
No, I think an email receipt is fine. I believe I had shared that contact information.
You did. I just I guess I need to write little cover, in the email, just identifying this as our grant and such, but I will.
Yeah, and we identified as the Southborough Trails Committee.
Okay.
Surprise, surprise.
All right. One thing, I was checking my my email, my town email. I don't get the panelist invitations.
Oh, you don't?
No. I mean, I think that
Would help.
it just may be an oversight, because of the situation here. I don't know.
So Sati, did you get a panelist?
Yes, I do. I did.
So I did just this time. Like I used to not, it's been a while since I've received one. I think they're now starting them up again for some interesting reason. But Bella, did you not get one? Oh, you don't have a town email, right?
No, guys, I don't have a town email.
Which I
I got-
find,
I never got a password for it. And they also spelled my last name wrong in the town email. So I don't really know who to talk to about that.
It's the IT person. I forgot his
Yeah.
name. I just
The
sent him.
IT person? Okay.
Yeah.
I can reach out to him on your behalf, Bella, because technically the town has an email policy which requires everyone to use their town email that's on a committee. And I think they broadened that to include every committee member. It used to just be chairs. But one of the reasons is because our emails are public records. So if someone were to do a records request, if we would have to submit our emails, and if they're merged with your personal ones, it might be better to not have to submit your personal ones, or it might be hard.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Just one
Yeah.
point. What Will said. Will, I can see in the invite that you responded yes.
Oh, that's the Outlook.
That's the Outlook. Yes.
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
outlook.
that's
But
different. Yeah.
yeah, I was searching my email, and I do get panelist requests for other committees,
Okay.
but not for this one.
So Tim, actually, Bella, Tim put Jason's email in the chat. If you want to reach out to Jason, is his first name, he's really nice, and ask him to fix your email, because I was sending emails to the I Bogdansky at southboroughma.com, and they started to bounce back. So I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on now. So that should probably help. And then
Yeah,
let me
I'll
know
definitely
when,
do that. Thank you
let
so
me know
much.
when you
Oh,
get
yeah, I'll
that
definitely email him.
all set, and I'll fix up my my distribution list. So you'll get those there too. Because the town, once they set you up,
Okay.
once they set you up with a town email, they won't email your personal email, is my understanding. I don't think they.
Okay. I haven't gotten any emails from the town. I've just been getting emails from you and from
Okay.
Joyce, the other committee
Yeah.
that I'm on. But yeah, and I also wanted to say thank you so much for all the hard work that you put into this grant. It's really awesome, and I'm so excited for the final result.
Oh, thank you. And thank you. You hooked us up with some quotes from Bigelow Nurseries for some trees that we might need for a buffer. And that was really helpful. Thank you. So anyway, that's that. And then next on the list is, so I've reached out to MWA about the 8M permit, and I submitted all of the documentation about what sections of trail need to be permitted in this, and they do want to consolidate. So right now we have 2 existing 8M permits that give access to the trail from Deerfoot heading west along the open channel up to the point where the trail merges into the woods. I can share my screen because I know that's kind of hard to visualize. And I just did some maps for this. Hold on, I need to pull it up because otherwise you might be seeing my personal information I don't want to share. Okay, let's see. Which screen? This one, I think. Okay, so tell me when you see a PDF that has our letterhead.
Yep, we can see it.
You see it? Okay, so I'm gonna scroll slowly. Okay, great. So let me see this one down here. Okay, so everyone's seeing this map. This is Deerfoot on the right, and this trail in red goes all along. So we're permitted to about, I think it's about where my cursor is. And so what we need to add to this 8M permit is the rest of it, which goes to the Marlboro town line, and that's going to be the Aqueduct Trail. So it's just like a 0.3 mile segment, right? That needs to be added. And then on the other side, the only part that is DCR's, and that's MWRA's property, is that in red right here. So the rest of the Peninsula Trail that we're used to seeing along the peninsula is DCR land. So these 2 red, this will be our Southborough MWRA 8M permit for all of this. And I also included the little new trail that we built off Pine Hill. Okay, so that's MWRA, and then DCR will be that in blue here. This will be DCR's addition. Now DCR, we have a couple things. One is the public access plan, which we'll talk about in just a moment, that we need to open access to this section. But once this is done, we then need to go into an MOU and a memorandum of understanding with DCR to renew our existing agreements that allow us the rest of the trails in Southborough. We're going to add the 911, the loop behind 911, because it's technically not permitted, but we have verbal agreement to be able to maintain that trail and add this section as well. So that's the status of the permits. And so Sean just actually got back to me just now. Let's see what he says. He said, can you see my screen still?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. So he's just shared it with the legal team and he'll hopefully hear back soon. He's going on leave next week, but he has hooked us up with someone to connect with in his stead. And he said the timeline for getting this permit in place is roughly a few weeks. So we'll say a month or 2, just in case there's some delay. But that's great news. That means we'll be all permitted and ready to go on the MWRA side.
We expect any problem?
Not at all. Well, I hope not. But you know, whenever you bring legal into it, they could always ask some questions. But I sent over some details about what we were planning to do, just to be as transparent as possible, so that we don't have any surprises down the road, which I don't expect, but you never know. If new people are coming in on the project scope, you could always have some additional questions and such. But MWRA has been very cooperative and really looking forward, I think, to opening this section of trail, because in the end, it does make these organizations look better when they can, you know, open up recreational resources in communities. So it's a win-win for all of us. So on that topic, we have a public listening session coming up on the 23rd. So that's next. No, is it not next week? Right, it's in 2 weeks. So oh, I want to just show you, I had circulated this to the team. Are you guys seeing, to the committee? So this is about, this is the public access plan. This is the second public hearing or information meeting that they have to have. It's part of the process. And I thought they were going to review a draft report, but as I read this more closely, it looks like they're going to be, the purpose of this public access plans to review existing policies and implement changes based on sound science to control blah, blah, blah. So I guess we're going to be talking about the policies and stuff. I don't know if we're going to have a draft plan. So to review, but yeah, so if you guys can attend, this would be good just to understand how this process works and to, while we're in the meeting, and ask any questions that might come up. One of the questions we had asked during the last session was, can we bike on the access roads, like just those 2 trails in Southborough that are currently being driven on by vehicles by MWA and DCR? Can we also bike on those? I don't know that they're going to say yes, but they didn't say a hell no. So maybe that means they would consider it. But I think there's bigger problems with allowing access. So we're in a watershed, and I know they have those very strict limitations, but it never hurts to ask. Any thoughts or questions? Okay. Next up is ARPA committee feedback. So I circulated Melanie, the executive assistant for the town, sent around the ARPA information to all the committees and boards and commissions, and asked if people would submit their projects to ARPA committee by the 15th of February. So that's why we convened today, so that we could talk about potential projects that we'd like to submit to the ARPA committee for consideration of funding. And just this short summary of it, I believe, is Southborough has or will be receiving $3 million. And because of the classification and the revenue loss in Southborough, the restrictions have been opened up to allow the money to be spent on government services. So anything the government would be spending money on, aside from a few restrictions, pension investments and things like that, that it opens up the categories. And so that's why it's important for us to kind of think about what could we put forward if the town were open to funding something related to trails. What is our list? And so before I open it up for discussion, I was thinking, although our grant, I think our grant application is really strong. We have a lot of support. It's also very expensive. It's a high dollar project, and it's very competitive grant cycle. So if we don't get grant funding, what do? We have our CPA money that we can do. We can put the fencing in and some signage, but we can't do the boardwalk or the bridge, and those are really important to the connectivity piece. So my proposal was, can we, as one of our projects, put in what if funding, and how do we do this? I'm not exactly sure. So I want the feedback from the committee is, how do we kind of earmark money for this type of project, since we won't know until July? Is that something we could ask ARPA committee to do if one of our projects was successful at being selected? I think the ARPA is going to put forward to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen will have an ultimate vote for the record. And then what other projects can we put on our list? So say if we put our project on the list to pay for these additional things, what else can we add? If we do get funding for that, then can we slide into project 2 and 3, instead of funding project 1 or something like that? So hit me with what you get for some ideas.
So just to elaborate on that, I think that's a good idea to put in. And like I said, we have the deadline of the 15th to report to the ARPA committee. So I think one of the line items is for the grant sum, we can either do all of it or a good chunk of it. Contingent on, we will need these funds if we get denied the Mass Trails grant, and see what they come back to. We don't have to solve that issue. If they say, no, you have to have a specific thing, then, we can't say that trail because we don't know until July. So we can't say yes, but we can always request that and ask them in our list, saying, if we get denied the grant, we would like to have whatever the price is of ARPA funds applied to this project, and we can give them all the details.
So we can move forward and express how very important it is, which we have already outlined in the grant. So we can pull some very important, compelling points and help make the argument of why this trail is so important.
And then the one that I thought of is, and it's open to debate. We've always been talking about a paved bike trail in town. And I would like to put in, and I don't even know how much this costs, so I'm gonna throw it out there, it'll say $25,000 for a feasibility study to do a paved bike path from the Central Street Playground to East Main Street to downtown. That way, to see if it's even feasible before we even have our selectmen or request our selectmen to approach CSX, that yes, it could be done, we can have it done safely, we can have a fence, and it can be paved, there's enough space, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that'd be good to have in our hand.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot, Tom. I just have a question. Is it possible to get a kind of an estimate? Who would do this type of feasibility study? Do we know any? I
I don't know,
mean,
we only have 5 days, remember, to give our ARPA.
yeah, but we have the will to get it done too. You know, like if, oh, someone raised their hand. Who raised? Oh, Tim, let me allow you to talk, Tim. But yeah, I love that idea. Thank you. Tim, can you talk now? Yeah, there you
Sure.
are.
So I had a couple of thoughts on the proposal for a bike trail. I mean, be aware that there is the whole Complete Streets program that Karen Galligan has been running. And it sounds like maybe what you want to do is provide input into priorities for that, saying you really want to have bike access as part of that, and here are your priorities for where. Because one of the things with the whole Complete Streets thing has been the priorities have been sort of allocated by consultants and somewhat arbitrary. So if you have a particular point of view, that's something you might want to do. And then
Would we consider that Plan B if we just put the grant in and we don't get the $25,000?
no, do it anyway.
Yeah, I don't think there's an issue of throwing in and a price and a description of that, like I said, feasibility study that I just mentioned.
Right, and Karen may be able to give you with a phone call an idea of what she what VHB charges for these kinds of things. VHB is their usual consultant.
Oh, okay. Two things. One is, thank you for that very much, Tim. We have, so we do have some priority projects listed on the Complete Streets. Actually, Karen included that in our cover letter in her, letter of support in our grant application, because one of those Complete Street projects is extending the sidewalk on Central Street all the way to Route 30.
Okay.
Right, which would give us access to that crosswalk that we need to put in to make a safe crossing. So that's one thing. But two, I just happen to have a contact from VHB now because I had to talk to them about engineering for the bridge. So I could reach out to that contact and say, hey, what do you, can you provide us kind of a ballpark range so that we could put in a good rough number. That's all I was hoping for in the next few days. And that's
I'm just thinking, in addition, Tom has put out a specific place that's important enough to ask for a grant. So I'd say, put it in as many places as you can. And if you get too much money, you can always say, or other places.
okay.
But then the other thought I had is for ARPA money is maybe you can go after trails maintenance tools and a place to store them, which you didn't get in your budget and seems like a one-time, bootstrapping thing.
Is that, you think, does that qualify?
Well, that's the question. If it qualifies, go for it.
Well, I think with that one, since nobody on the committee is probably going to be authorized to use the equipment or trained, I think we have to ask Karen, what kind of equipment would you want to help your people maintain some trails?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you use shovels, you use pruners, you use saws.
Yeah, that kind of stuff for sure.
And
Yeah.
you can get a garden shed kind of thing for a few $1,000s, which you could park at the transfer station or the cemetery or wherever. I mean, it's the kind of thing that you've sounded, hesitant to put in your budget, but here's a different pot of money and it is a service. And the worst they can say is no.
And a grand or more would just really set us up with what we need for tools. And that's not a lot of money. That's a very small job.
Well, I would do what Tim just mentioned, though. We need a central place beside your house, beside your car. So that we can access. So yeah, a small garden shed should be included that with approximately $1,000 worth of tools. I mean,
Take
But-
measures, safety vests,
And your
Or whatever
you
GPS
can think of.
measuring thing,
But
your
Or
GPS measuring thing, Catherine. Remember that GPS measuring thing? I forgot what you called it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
The very expensive one?
Again, if
Well,
you
I
don't
bet
ask,
DPW wants one of those.
so yeah, so put it in.
you
and
can
if
offer to
have
share
any
it with them.
requests- Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
but
We'll share it with you.
however, one thing though, I mean, even if you get that shed or whatever, do you not have to go through the organizations who will allow you to keep that storage?
Details. Don't confuse requesting with implementing.
Okay.
No, but I love that Sati brought that up, because what I think, and I'll let you guys tell me, if we show up with a fully fleshed out idea with quotes and everything kind of worked out, and we really make it look like we put some effort into it and thought through it, and it's not just throwing our names in a hat, I feel that might bring attention to, maybe we should consider this idea. Do you guys feel differently about that? Like,
No,
we've
no,
already
that's
talked to
fine.
DPW about location, and they say, yeah, you can put it here, and we've got it all worked out. I mean, who says no to a great idea that's already planned out? Or maybe that's not a question.
Well, I agree with the suggestion. I do have another suggestion as well.
Okay.
Currently, as somebody who walks, there are no real walkable paths that cross Route 9.
Yep.
And, so everything, I mean, there's not really any way to get to the center of town if you live south of Route 9, unless you're going to get into a car, not safely, right? So I just, one of my priorities would be to see if we could look into that situation. I
That is
know,
on the complete streets thing, Will.
does that
Yeah.
include building, let's say, like a bridge trail or whatever that would parallel 85, for instance?
Yeah,
You
the
know,
Oh,
problem
like,
is it's
more.
really expensive and there are conservation issues.
Yeah.
But it is on the list and Karen, keeps hearing it over and over again. It doesn't hurt to tell her again.
It is on the list. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there's also, the other thing is that there's no, well, in addition to that, there's no walkable path from the center of the town down to the reserve that's south of Route 9, that area that
To
used to
the,
be the apple orchard. Yeah,
To
to the cows. to the-
Breakneck Hill.
Oh, Breakneck Hill.
yeah,
Okay,
Breakneck
so
Hill, yeah.
from center of town. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, unless you drive, there's no connectivity.
Well, there is kind of, you got to go down, was that Mount Vickery?
Well, yeah, except that I've walked that and it's a pretty dangerous walk.
I've
Oh, yeah.
walked it
There's
many
no-
times
there are
and
no
it's taking your
shoulders.
life in your hands.
Yeah, there are no shoulders on that road. There are no shoulders on Breakneck Hill.
Yeah.
And,
That's the thing
there are
about-
also, steep hills. So it's even leaping off the road sometimes is not
You
an
have
option.
to be walking there with an 18-wheeler going past you to really understand the joy of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's, it's good. It's good. It keeps the population down, that's for sure. So-
I have a question about sidewalks and bikes. Typically, I've understood that bikes aren't allowed on sidewalks. Is that true?
Yes, that's true, because the bikes share roads. The roads are not just for cars. Driving is a privilege, not a right. So.
Right, and someone on a bike is, arguably they can share the road with a car comfortably, but walking in the road is not generally
No.
looked upon favorably.
There's some funny rules about bikes and sidewalks, but generally
Yeah.
the answer is a bike belongs in the road.
Yeah. Well, Tim, did you have another thing? I think we might have interrupted.
That was my starting point anyway.
Oh, I'm wondering, do we pay anybody for nature hikes or, guided
Guided hikes.
trails? Yeah, guided hikes.
I like that. We have not traditionally, but I think it's not a bad idea to think about, Will, because what we were talking about earlier this year is you can only walk Southborough Trails so many times before you've walked the Southborough Trails, right? Because there's not that many of them. However, what we haven't always done is brought in an expert who can talk about the nature or the ecology or the watershed or history or different aspects, you know, that I think that's a really good idea. And just with the Choate Fund grant last spring, when Trails partnered with Stewardship, we did include a small stipend for a hike leader for that very reason. So is your suggestion that we put in a stipend for, so if the money needs to be spent by 2026, right, 2026, then we could do it like a one a year or something like that. Is that what you're
Yeah.
thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it could be something that we could easily request. It's not terribly high dollar, but it also, you know, just anything that gets people out on the trails and gets people, you know, aware. One other idea, I don't know if this would fly at all, would be, you know, photography of the trails, but maybe that's something that we do ourselves, I guess.
Well, we could definitely do that ourselves, but I like the idea of a drone footage, you know,
Yeah.
highlighting, hiring a marketing company or something, or someone with those types of skills to put together some really awesome videos of Southborough Trails. That might be an interesting.
Hey, not that I'm gonna volunteer anybody, but we all remember Dan Frank, one of the original Trails members.
Dan Frank was the former, yeah, he was the former.
I read his book.
So he teaches at UMass Lowell, I believe. And he's into cinematography. And maybe, I don't know if it costs money to have his students do something like that as a senior project or something. That is a possibility, because then our finished product, the finished product will be a little bit more polished.
Yeah.
Than
Hey,
just
who wants
raw.
to take that on? That might not require money, but who wants to reach out to Dan Frank and say, hey,
I'll give him, I'll reach out to Dan, and it could be a little, you know, you're gonna cover these kids' expenses driving out here, doing that stuff. So there could be some money associated to give them stipend or whatever, but it shouldn't be much. I'll ask Dan what would be a good stipend to do
Thank
a project like this.
He's a media professor also, right? I think.
Yeah, I don't know his exact
Yeah.
title, but he teaches there.
yeah. So another idea I had was like our phase 2, 3 thoughts on the trail. So right now we have funding to do basic signage, but we've put into the grant application our desire to expand our trail to include components that would allow people with different varying abilities, not just limited mobility, but say visually impaired or sensory deficits and such. Are there things that we can do to enhance our trail for all populations in that way? So I think that would just, you know, require maybe some additional add-ons to our signage, or we expand the type of signs we're getting. It might cost more for those types of panels and that type of stuff. So any thoughts on that?
Well, you could certainly do descriptive work and you know, loan out USB drives with MP3 files on them, sort of thing.
Oh, wait a minute. Loan out USB drives with
You record a description of the file. I'm sorry, of the trail. You know, here's where you are. This is what you can see.
Oh, and so.
And you can hand that out to people to play on their smartphones or.
Oh, wait. Ooh. What happens when you go to a museum in Italy and you purchase the package to get a guided hike or get a guided tour, right? And you plug in and you walk along and you see your artwork, and it's so.
Well, I can't speak to Italy, but I can talk about what happens in the US.
Well, I'm thinking about that experience I had.
Yes.
And could we create like an app experience?
Yes.
Could we work with some STEM students who code that stuff and build an app of sorts? Ooh.
Well, I mean, you can certainly link things to GPS positions and have fun. So anyway, that doesn't take a lot of money. That just takes time and energy.
Well, the USB drive idea, do you check it out and then check it in? Plug it
That would be one approach. Another approach is to, just put the stuff online and assume people have enough data to stream it. Anyway, this is probably not the right meeting to worry about the details. It's just the thought that.
Well, no, it is the right meeting because I'm trying to write up the details. So
Well, what I'm saying is I don't think that that's big enough that it's an ARPA kind of thing. If your topic is trying to find, usefully sized things to get out of the ARPA funding.
Well, so it might be appreciated that we're only asking for small dollars in certain projects. Like we might have like our project list might be the accessibility expansion project will be including this plus a few other things that only total $25,000. I don't know, for example. So this might be one component of a package. Is what I'm thinking, but that's really smart. Thank you for sharing that idea.
Well, it comes from a few years of working in that area, so.
Yeah. And do we have a representative of the technology committee on the?
You have a representative of both technology and accessibility and Will.
I know, it's awesome. Okay, great. What else do we have? So. Yeah, what else do we have around town like that would enhance existing trails? Are we missing anything? Like, do we need any, we're thinking about putting interpretive signage and we want to be careful about sign pollution, but are there any trails that exist along the Sudbury Reservoir Trail that would, have a sign or two about the history of town, similar to what the Boy Scout did off of Deerfoot with a Burnett mansion, but not talk about Burnett, talk about, do it somewhere else and talk about something else.
I guess you could just put in a line item for additional interpretive signs around town. We have the price for that one on the Peninsula Trail.
Yeah.
I think for this exercise, that price times maybe 3 more. I just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Because we could probably down the road do something with them.
I know the Historical Commission was thinking of history walks and maybe working with the EDC on history walks throughout downtown. So is there any partnership, related to their projects that we could kind of work together so there's a common theme and not a disjointed idea?
Maybe we could talk to the historical people.
It would be nice if the town had a common branding language, look and feel for recreational signs.
That's really important, as I realized when I probably won't go there. Never mind. Yeah, I won't go there. I'll opt out of that. Oh yeah, I agree. A common theme, just like Southborough has the green and gold signs for different town buildings and such.
One thing that I noticed, I was looking at when we were working on the grant, I was looking at whether or not there was anything having to do with endangered species or sensitive environment. And, when you look into that, there's this set of very nice maps that cover all of the towns. There's a map per town. And on these maps are, highlighted areas where there are either endangered species or sensitive habitats. Except there's like 3 or 4 towns that don't have one, and we are one that doesn't have one of these.
That we don't have.
We don't have. There is no survey. There's a survey for Northborough. There's a survey for Westborough. There's a survey for Ashland. There's a survey for Framingham. Not for Southborough. There's the name of Southborough there, but there's nothing to link to. So I wonder why, we don't have that would be, my question.
That's a good question. I wonder if, who would be the commission that would do that? Would that be open space, or would that be, do we really have, open space does a lot with pollinators and garden,
Freddie Gillespie.
Freddie, yeah.
I can look it up. I mean, I found it before. I can Google it again and get to it.
Like, is that under the Conservation Commission's purview?
Probably is,
Probably,
yes.
yes,
Yeah.
I would say, yeah.
But I don't
conservation.
understand why we don't have one and everybody else
Right.
does.
It's a good question, and Melissa Danza would probably be more than open to hearing from you on that and making a suggestion to do that.
Melissa Danza is,
The
Conservation agent.
Yeah, in town. So
oh,
you'll have her
okay.
contact information on the website under Conservation Commission. But you bring up a good point, like we talk about the watershed and things, that could be some of our interpretive signage is, you know, talking about water, the importance of watershed and protecting backup water supplies and stuff that could work well with our upcoming initiative for dog walking and the dog waste campaign and stuff.
You might also want to put together a KML file of the trails, which allows you to overlap them, you know, the waypoints for the trails on Google Earth or on an app.
Interactive maps. We're supposed to actually have, that's a really good idea. Like, so, yes. So we're actually the Central Regional Planning, fill in the blank. They received a DCR grant a year or more ago to create a central map of Metro West area with an interactive map of all the trails. And so they were going to include our existing trails and the town forest, because I walked it with them, but I have not seen that map. So technically, if they did have that map, most of Southborough trails would have an interactive map that we could link to. But that's a really good idea, we need a professional map maker, like somebody to really professionalize our maps. And wouldn't that be nice to have a map app, you know, other than all trails? Maybe that's redundant, but something to that effect, some technology related mapping.
Well, it links with accessibility, because if your smartphone knows where you are and it has a trail, it can certainly tell you when you wander off it or how to get back.
And we could link it into the public safety, because the fire and police need to be able to identify and find people on the trail too if there's an emergency. So we could link that to the public safety piece. Ooh.
If there's an existing map, there's also the question of getting it updated with the Peninsula Trail and any of the other new stuff you've done since.
It'd be nice if they could set us up where we could, you know, teach a person to fish instead of having to pay for updates all the time.
Well,
This
you
is
should be
great.
able to do it. I mean, with Google Earth, you can draw your own, you can put your own waypoints, and you can load them into a smartphone. So you're not very far off from having something.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing to piece things together. What else do we have? Anything big? So are there any other like and trail enhancements that would
Well, you want some, what should I say? I mean, I'm thinking, you know, places where you have to temporarily, you know, close a trail or redirect people, you know, sawhorses, you know, portable signs. Kind of thing that happens, you know, when you have, you know, trees that are down and you want to say, you know, we're closed at the moment, or go this way. You know, what you see on roads, I assume you would do on trails from time to time.
yeah.
And that
And
you could
that
put in the
actually-
equipment bucket.
Yeah, that might actually fall, like these little signs might fall under our annual budget. Isn't that a new word?
Yeah, but well, there's that, but I'm also thinking, you know, if we go down with my original, you know, get some tools and some storage, include some sawhorses that can hold signs or cones or.
Cones are helpful because they're actually pretty expensive. I lost one and then I bought another one and they're too tiny, but cones are a really good idea. Every time we have a work party, we should be putting cones out at the works.
But let's put that into that shed tools.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
let's add to that.
All right. Well, I think we've done really good with coming up with stuff. And so if anything, so what I'll do is pull this together. I want one eye, you know, an eye on what's going on before I send it out. So I'm gonna have high ambition that I'll do it tonight, but I've got 3 other things I gotta get done. But I'm gonna be out this weekend and we have to submit by Tuesday. So I will probably try to get it to you guys tomorrow. If you could just take a look at it and send me comments back only, not the group. And then I will submit with a compelling argument for our projects for next week. And we'll see where we go from there. Thank you very much for all these great ideas. This has been fun. Fun fantasizing about building great trails. I like it. Okay, so next on the list, we'll fly through some of these. Choate Fund grant planning. So the Choate grant usually comes up and is announced in early March and is due by April 30th. So we are still working off of the existing Choate Fund grant with stewardship. And that, if you remember, I'll remind us, it contributed to a kiosk on Breakneck Hill, other like bluebird boxes, a kestrel box installation. And then for trails, it includes signage throughout town, signage for the town forest. We're going to be doing a naming survey with townwide to have people help select names for the town forest, and we're going to have those made. And then we're going to do a dog waste education campaign throughout town and put up signs to better mark what trails are allowed dogs and what aren't. So that grant, we're trying to close it up and roll out by Earth Day, so it kind of it wraps up nicely with that theme. And then so basically what we have to be careful about is if we go after this another Choate Fund grant, we're going to be submitting before we're finished the other one, right? So I don't think that's a problem. We've communicated with the grant program manager, let him know where we are. So just, do we have any ideas on what that, it seems like if we don't go after it, we're leaving money on the table. I hate to say it that way, but if
Well, why don't we, my suggestion is, let's see what the ARPA committee cuts off of our request. And then whatever we feel like a cutoff, we can use the Choate grant to apply for it.
it's small money, like it's just a couple grand.
I know we got some small projects that we were mentioning too, so.
And it would be nice if, so we've kind of, last year, we've had signage involved in 2 years in a row, which is fine. We needed signage. And last year we added, a twist of having a guided hike and a leader and that kind of stuff. So that was another twist. So this year I'd like to try to be unique again and not just focus on signage, but what can we do to a project that's really, different than signage. And one thought I had is something we put in the grant is what we in Southborough don't have is we're not an environmental justice community. We don't have a lot of access. So we're not providing access to an underserved population as described in that very narrow, like low income and other categories as such. And so what can we do to create outreach to our local communities that maybe have higher populations and how, to be more inclusive of our trails? And so are there programs that we can come up with, that like we connect with the schools and we have maybe a science teacher, do a hike with their students or something to educate about watershed or educate about dam infrastructure, or what does it look like to serve 3 million people drinking water, and what does some of that infrastructure look like? Are there things that we can do to outreach within our communities outside of Southborough to bring people to trails and expose them to different resources that they might not already have access to? So I'll leave that thought out there for anyone to respond to or to just think about.
Well, one thing, my sense has been that trails have been pretty much an adult resource, and reaching out to our own schools and figuring out, what they might like to do, or how they might be able to exploit the trails with younger kids.
I like
might
it.
be worthwhile.
That's great. I love that idea. And you know what comes to mind, and I don't want to borrow the idea, but it's such a good one that they must know that others want to replicate it. But there's the trails in town that have like little, like a story, you walk along and you read the story, and those are really amazing, right? Can we do something like that in some small section of trail that would really inspire parents with small children or any children to come along and really to use, that might be, maybe that could be part of the Choke Fund grant. Like, can we develop a trail like that for
I mean, also, science teachers and field trips and, just, it's always good to get kids outside, and particularly in the current environment, it's even better.
Yeah. Is there anyone on the committee who feels especially motivated and has a little bit of bandwidth that might want to reach out to some of our schools to see? Remember, we did have the person from St. Mark's who had reached out about outdoor education, and she put me in touch with somebody else. So we could have that contact. That's St. Mark's. Then we have Fay School, and then Algonquin. Does anyone want to reach out to any other schools or in the area and see what we can come up with? And we can talk about it in March. No bandwidth? Okay. Okay, so we'll see how that gels later. Next up is website updates. We've got a few updates to do because we want to focus on making sure that we have all of our project updates. Someone's identified a couple links and some maps that were broken, so I'll get those updated. Because as you know, I don't know if the grant reviewers would reach out and try to scope us out and see what we're doing on social media or on our website, but we just want to make sure we put our most current and fresh face forward just in case those things happen, to see. And if anyone has, we can add our policy to the resource page. Something we haven't really built out is our resources page. So if you guys have ideas of things that we can put on our resource page, we can link to, I don't know, different types of trail related news, and not news, but like resources and maybe trail guides, or, how to, maybe it's local resources, and we don't really have a list of, we're not linking to Northborough's trails or Westborough's trails. We can link to our local trails, things like that. By the way, speaking of local trails, this weekend and next weekend, we have Marlboro Trails Committee. They're doing a sneak peek hike on the Panther Trail. I had submitted something on social media, Facebook on that. So if anyone's interested in signing up for those, their registrations are open, and certainly welcome to check out. I was going to try to do it maybe next weekend if I have a little extra time on the weekend, so feel free to do that.
One thing on social media I've noticed, I don't know if it applies to you, but a lot of this, I find recently a lot of Facebook and Twitter accounts in particular won't let you see anything unless you have one of those accounts and are logged in. And I think you have to take some special action to make sure that your stuff is visible to the public, even if the public member doesn't have an account. So like anything on Facebook that is that requires a login, I can't see because I refuse to have a Facebook account for whatever reason.
Oh, okay.
So do I.
So these, the Eventbrite's, I think you don't have to log in to see it. You just go right to a page.
I understand that about that, but I gather you maintain a Facebook page. You may
If
have a
you're not a
Twitter feed.
Facebook user, you cannot view anything in Facebook.
Right.
Period.
Well,
Right.
I think there are settings where you can make it possible, because there are pages I can see, and then there are ones I can't.
Interesting. Can you
So
see trails?
check your settings and try and make sure that
Can you
things
not
that
see
are public
trails?
are as public as possible.
Can you not see our trails Facebook page?
I don't even know what it is. I don't do Facebook.
Oh,
Neither
then
do
of
I.
course you don't see it, and neither
They
do
do
you.
MySpace instead.
Oh,
I don't do that either.
No, I don't do evil is what
I
I don't
don't-
do.
I don't do.
Becky, are you
They're
on
in the
Facebook?
metaverse right now.
No,
No. And Tom, you are on Facebook?
Yes,
Are you friends of Trail? Like, do you
yes,
support?
I see all that stuff.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So I know we're at 8:08, so I just have a couple things. Trail maintenance planning, we can punt till next time, but it will kind of link to my next question, which is I'm going to share my screen. Hold on just a second. Okay, so what I'd like to do is, we don't have to fully have this conversation tonight, but we do want to continue it next time, is something we talked about of roles and responsibility opportunities with trails. So this is a way to make sure that everyone feels like they have a participating role, and that we come back to our meetings each month and everybody gets to report on something, and it's more about everybody involved versus just listening to cat talk. So I have a list here, and we can, just to get us started on some ideas, and then would like to hear from you guys on your interests, for example. So the trail maintenance coordinator, like, actually, I'll take my thing out there. You know, does someone want to kind of step into that role and be like, you know, when we need trail maintenance, this person is the one that kind of organizes, is the go-to person. So I'm going to run through them, but if anything stands out to you and you want to put your name next to it, and there can be multiple names next to something, that way that it doesn't just follow one person, and we're cross-training, as you know, someone might transition out or might be busy and someone can step up. So it's probably good to have at least two people for each role, so that we have that kind of depth. So, you know, accessibility liaison, I'm not sure who comes to mind with that. Website editors, it's probably good to have a couple people know how to do that type of stuff. Map makers, you know, if you have special skills, I think Bella Bogdansky might have some GIS skills she had mentioned before. Note taker, that's Sati, but if others wanted to help, they could. Diversity and inclusion coordinator. So this is something, and I think Isabel Murphy might be perfect for it. She's mentioned diversity and inclusion before. And so I want to make sure, after doing this grant and going through the application, realizing that we should keep this on top of mind. How can we be more inclusive and offer, you know, and reach a diverse group of people, so that what we said in our grant, we really mean. And if we do end up building an accessible trail, you know, want to make sure that we're representing all populations equally. So if anyone has a specific interest in this, you know, raise your hand. And then social media. So just what we were talking about. So we have a Facebook page, and it's great because we can connect with a lot of people. We have over 500 followers, which is wonderful. But I think I need some help, and I'm happy to continue to maintain it, but I need some help. And I think one way we can do it is, so I think Isabel Murphy and Isabel Bogdansky and I and Tom, there's 4 of us on social media. We're on Facebook, right? So what I'd like to do is, you know, kind of come up with a commitment. So one of us is posting each week, because the one way that Facebook works really well is when you're consistently posting. And it can be related to trails in Southborough, which is nice, with pictures is nice. It can also be, you know, trails related locally, anything going on locally, or, you know, thoughts about trails. Like, we find resources all the time that we can post. So, you know, coming up with a plan so that at least one person does something a week, so that we can keep our circulation going and keep that consistency and keep our followers following. And those who aren't on Facebook can still contribute, right? And we would still ask you to, by contributing ideas. So it would be like once a month, you would contribute an idea like, oh, I think this would be great for the Facebook page or the website, and then send it to those of us on Facebook, and we will post it. So that way we're all kind of involved in that outreach piece. So I'll stop there and let me hear what you have.
You can add me to the website editors and the trail maintenance coordinator.
Hey, Catherine, I think we should shelf that social media to dedicate a whole meeting around that, because Facebook is one thing. A lot of people don't use Facebook, or people use Facebook are getting out of it. Most people do Instagram. And the only reason I'm not volunteering me, because I do not do it, is my dog, the Saint Bernard, for the people that don't know, on Instagram has over, I don't know, 1,200 followers. And my wife does it. Only reason she did it, she wanted to learn how to do social media on Instagram. And Catherine, you're 100% correct. You got to always add content all the time. So that's why it's more of a, and sometimes when you go to Facebook, it can automatically go to Instagram. I don't understand that well. Maybe someone in the IT technology can help us so that it's easier for us to post and it goes to multiple things: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So I would like to shelf that, because that's a holistic thing. Website editor, that's a one-time fix, adding the page, a link, etc. like that.
No. Website editing, meaning you constantly post, you.
Well,
review
that's
it
the
and
social
post.
media. That's social media.
I want to say it's two different things. So it is related, but maintaining a website is different than posting content on a social media, like on Facebook, right? So keeping your website fresh, making sure you're checking your links and that kind of stuff, posting updates on projects, that's different, than, because that's kind of a one and done more than it is the social, the Facebook, Instagrams are the continuous, right?
But 99% of the time when I get updates, I do not go to the South Road Trails website. I go it from Instagram or Facebook. Well, not Instagram, but Facebook.
No, and that's fair. But if you want maps and such, we link to our website.
Oh,
through
yeah,
our
yeah, yeah,
Facebook
yeah, yeah, yeah,
page,
yeah.
and
That's what I'm
we
saying.
send out
Social,
website announcements and stuff like that. So yeah.
right. My point was social media is a different beast than a website editor.
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Two different lines. So
No, keep them two separate lines. I'm
Also-
just saying, it's a bigger thing. It's a much bigger thing and a lot more commitment to do social media.
Yeah, but the other thing I'd say is if you're going to post what you're calling an update on a website, isn't that something you'd also want to post on, social media?
Yeah,
that's a
exactly.
great point.
That's
So
what I'm
if
saying.
we're-
They're all
it's-
linked.
I mean,
that's really
the
good.
maintenance issue is separate on a website because that's you're maintaining links and, making sure that the things still work. That's probably not a big deal, right? The links don't change that often, but
And
when
that's
you
what
get
I think
into-
a website editor is in my,
yeah, I agree.
in my mind.
So I think there are two different things going on here. One is content and the other is platform.
Right.
Right. And content
It should be
then
holistic.
gets directed to one or multiple platforms.
Yes, agreed.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm
So-
saying. Let's shelf a social media thing to be one meeting by itself with.
Okay,
maybe
so I have a
somebody.
couple comments. One is to finish out Will's thought. Yes, so when projects are updated, we do typically, when projects are like finished up, we'll post something on Facebook to let let everyone know the project's done and to congratulate usually it's a scout or somebody doing it. But so yes, they're linked in that way. Social media. So right now we have to be careful. I don't know that that Trails Committee wants an Instagram. I don't know that we can have an Instagram. The reason being, our Facebook page has to be backed up for public records law. And so the town is doing that and our website's backed up also. There's a protocol. I don't know if they will also, if it's too much trouble to back up an Instagram, if it's going to be worthwhile for us to have an Instagram. But I like that idea. So we'll shelf it and talk about it later. And I can explore with Jason to see if that's even an option for us. And Twitter, I don't think we should have a Twitter personally. I don't think we don't have enough going on to even can maintain a Facebook page.
That's why I'm saying,
Yeah.
you mentioned it,
Yeah.
Jason. I don't know what Jason does, but maybe someone from the IT committee can come in.
Jason is the IT guy.
No,
He's
I'm
the
talking
town
about,
employee.
he's a town employee. I'm talking about, we have a technology committee.
Yeah, but we don't, that's not really, we don't really get into Facebook and social
Okay.
media.
All right.
Yeah, so Jason is,
Um,
so when we worked with Tom, when we set up our Facebook page, Tom LaFlame set it up. He set
Okay.
all the backups up and he set up our website on the town. We migrated
And-
from one website platform. to
One,
his.
one agenda item I would like to put on to this meeting that Tom is urging for, which I agree, is how do we make it as few steps as possible? And, what I would say is that if we go in thinking that we're going to maintain, the same update on multiple platforms, we're dead.
Right.
No, yeah, we want to
I
keep it
agree.
streamlined and.
You want to make one update in one place, you're done. And if
Exactly.
we can't, and if the technology does not allow that to update multiple platforms, then don't update multiple platforms.
Yeah,
Agreed.
no.
Because
I-
otherwise they'll get out of sync and people will be confused.
Yeah, right. And I
Totally
don't
agree.
think the
Totally
updates
agree.
that we're doing on the website are going to be a little bit different than what we're doing on Facebook. So they don't have to be linked in that way. And Facebook is definitely our go-to for outreach in the community, aside from our website announcements. Okay,
So I
So
have
that's-
I have two more rows to suggest.
yes.
One is sort of the budget and finance role. And then the other, which may be multiple rows, is people who are interfaces to other organizations. I mean, these are
Outreach.
both things that
Yeah, that's a good
CAT has
point.
done most of. but she's always busy. So if other people could take on pieces of it, that wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah,
So
and
like,
we need that.
interface to DCR, interface to MWRA, interface to the Metro West Trails Committee, and, you know, all this other stuff.
Well, yeah, and then I had put in here, we had community outreach, and then we have like, not
Well,
just community being.
I was thinking organizational liaison.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, I agree.
By the way, is there a vice chairman?
No, but we have it in our bylaw, so we'll have a vice chair.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we should have periodically a time where we pretend that Kat got hit by a bus, and you know, and let other people take over, because you run a lot of relationships, and you know, if you were to drop out of the picture, and as you know, as Tim was saying, and others are saying, you do too much. You know, we need people to be able to pick that up, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly why we're moving in this direction, right?
Okay.
Is to so that when we write our next grant, we'll be in a position to have a group of people reach out. I will say I'm not that interested in stepping down as chair until the end of this project, the trails.
No,
project.
I'm
I'll
not-
put my
I'm not
plug
saying
in
that.
for that. But I agree completely. That's exactly why I'm hoping that this approach here will not only create the depth and breadth we need in the committee, but it will empower everybody to feel like they're as connected as they need to be to do whatever needs to be done if someone is, for example, decides to transition to a different position. Instead of being
We don't
hit
say,
by-
we don't say hit by a bus. We say goes on an extended cruise to Greece.
Yeah.
Or,
But no, I
you know,
appreciate that that point, because that is exactly what we're doing here. So we
Okay.
don't have to fill this out completely. We don't have Isabel Murphy here, and Bella had to drop off, and Tony's not here either. So we'll continue this conversation. And if anything else comes up, we've planted the seeds and things will kind of germinate. So we'll think about it and write it down, and we'll talk about it next time. Thank you very much. These are really great ideas. Awesome. So the next thing is the annual town meeting bylaw. There, I don't think there's anything we have to do at this point. Yeah, so I think we're just gonna have to wait. Oh yeah, and this is the question, and while we have Tim here too, is do we have to do any outreach to promote that we're, you know, like with the CPA application, we had to do a lot of outreach to get people to, you know, kind of support the whole idea. Do we need to consider that? Do we need to socialize this idea with other, you know, with townspeople? Like,
I
feels
wouldn't we
weird.
want to definitely, so, you know, make sure that the advisory committee knows about this and is on board.
How do we do that? Do we just show up? Can we just get on the agenda and talk about what we're trying to do?
So the requirements are, you need to get the selectmen on board because it's probably their article. And you
Okay,
need to
we
get
did that,
advisory
right?
on board because they review every article on the warrant. And you just make a request to be on the agenda,
Okay,
or they'll come after you if they see a warrant article and they haven't heard, but it's better to be proactive. And then
Okay.
By the way, I'm writing up some highlights for the ADA committee that's now dissolved, but you know, to go into the town book for the all town meeting. Are we submitting something for the all town meeting?
annual town meeting.
The annual, annual.
oh, you mean annual updates?
Yeah,
There's
Oh,
the
yes,
town
I think
report.
it goes in December
okay.
for the Trails Committee, you mean? And it goes.
Well,
in
this
the-
is something that's going to go into something, I guess, that'll be handed out at the annual town meeting.
Yeah,
N-
so we started that last year. Tim reached out. We'd never been able, I think it's the same thing. You're basically
Yes.
providing updates for your committee, your commissioner board, and it
Okay.
goes to the town warrant, and it's included in that section. So yes, we submitted in December, and it
Okay.
was, yeah, it was similar to what we submitted to the Board of Selectmen. You may remember it was, they asked for committee updates in December, and we submitted an outline of everything we had accomplished in 2021. So it was,
Yeah, it's
Just-
the accessibility committee is a couple of months behind because of its.
Yeah. yeah,
Yes,
Genesis.
yes, definitely.
Okay.
Could you, Kat, I don't want to burden you.
send it
but-
to you.
Yeah, if you have it handy. If you don't worry about it.
I do. I have it handy.
Okay,
Happy
good.
to. And I'm so glad that Tim had reached out the last year to start asking us to do that, because that was the first opportunity we've had. So it's a really great one. Not, you're only going to reach a handful of people that read that book, but it's
Tim, are we going to, is the Trails Committee going to be required to make any type of presentation at the annual town meeting?
No.
No.
Not,
I mean,
not
you
even as
maybe
part of
ask
the warrant
questions about the
article?
warrant article. And to finish my thought, in terms of optional outreach, it wouldn't hurt to talk to some of the related organizations. Take whatever presentation you're going to give to advisory and bring it to the Rec Commission, bring it to the Council on Aging. Let them know what's going on, because there are areas of overlap.
Hey, let me ask you, so it feels a little weird to put a presentation together for a bylaw?
Well, I've done it multiple times already,
Oh,
so.
yeah. Okay, so I'll get over that real quick. The other thing is, do you think I need to attend all these meetings, or can I just reach out to that? And now I'm not trying to get out of doing all this work. I want to do work, but I'm very stretched for time and stuff. Do we need to show up in person at all of these committees and commissions, or can an email communication with a nice little PDF outline be something that they could put on their next agenda and talk about? And
So my experience has been that when I've shown up in person, I get a lot more attention than another random email in the inbox of the account that I try not to read anyway.
yeah, no, I'm all
but-
about like writing the thing.
But you have other people. I mean,
Yes,
you
'cause
have
you
you
don't-
have Tom,
You can
use
delegate
have-
this, yes.
you have Sati, you
Yeah,
have Isabel, you have Isabella. So you
okay.
can divide and conquer.
Yeah,
My
and we can also
suggestion
use
is-
it as an opportunity to say thank you for the letter of support,
Or-
because some of these committees would have written one, so it's nice to show up and say, hey, thank you.
And I don't think they have to be unique presentations. I mean, I think, you're
It's the
talking
same
about,
one, yeah.
you're talking about, 4 slides, 5 slides, if you count the cover and the question slide at the end. That just says, hey, we're trying to reorganize, into a standing committee. This is what we're trying to do. This is why we're doing it. And, we'd
That's it.
appreciate it, your support.
Yeah,
And
4 or
I-
5
yeah.
slides, that's a little hard. I'm usually a 10 to 20 slider.
Yeah, I guess the main question that comes up is this going to cost more money? Is one thing. And then the other thing that you definitely want to make sure you cover is, hey, this is going to help us get more grants and get money into Southborough. So, hey.
I don't know if that, so that might be a talking point, but is it real?
It's
Like,
real.
We're not a standing committee right now. And we're going after a $262,000 grant. And we're
We
going
haven't
to
won it yet.
as an ad hoc committee.
But you'll do better when you're a standing committee. And Kat, that if you come up with 10 or 20 slides, I have been known to cut things down viciously for you.
I know you have. You're tough. You're tough. Damn. No, I've
Kat-
actually, I'm done with long presentations after that grant. I'm gonna be able to do 4 or 5. That's fine.
Once we're
If you come up with the
standing
content,
committee,
we can organize it, is my point.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
need help editing, let me know, and somehow I'll fit it in.
Somehow. Well, thank you, Tim. Maybe, so is this gonna cost more money? Yes.
well, the answer is no, right? Well,
But
we
it
are
is.
going to have
It
a
does.
budget.
It does
We're
not
gonna
cost more money to
reallocate.
reorganize the
We're gonna
committee.
reorganize,
Period.
right?
Right. But
Out
I
of
mean, it's,
somebody's budget. We're just not sure whose.
okay,
It's
but we.
increased transparency. It's taking stuff that was
Ah.
buried in the DPW, was buried in
And-
recreation, and
Right.
making someone accountable for it. That's you.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It also, I think it'll help market market Southborough as well.
Yep.
You
It'll
know,
help Pat save a few dollars. We can put that in there. I'm just kidding.
Well, but, for instance, this accessible trail, there's a list of accessible trails in Massachusetts that the Mass government maintains. Things like that are good. They're ways to market our community. And we talked about some others that are good ways to market our community.
Okay, so those are good ideas, like the cost more, like the reorganization of existing money. So it's not really adding, it's just reordering it.
And it's increased transparency as
Is
Tim was
is
saying.
key. Does it
Yeah.
cost more money?
So increased transparency for,
For the money that is spent on trails. I
Right.
mean, right now it's buried in DPW overhead, in recreation
Recreation.
overhead, other places. And this is saying, okay, there's actually someone who's planning it and there will be a budget. You're accountable for it.
Mhm.
And like any other budget in town, it will grow slowly as you're able to do more.
Okay. That's
But you don't have to emphasize that last part.
No.
They'll figure it out.
okay.
But it gives visibility is the key. That's the key word about this.
Yeah. Okay, that's smart. All right, thank you very much. That's helpful. So anything else before we adjourn?
But we have to pick a date though. When does the choke grant get released? Do you know, Kat?
It's roughly beginning of March, roughly, and due on 4/30. So
Early
Either the-
March.
Let's say, let's don't meet until that report's out. Because then we got to see if it changes or anything.
yeah, what
That's
is
just a suggestion that we meet. If it's in the beginning of March, say the week of the 14th to the 21st.
yeah, agreed. And one of those dates are going to be, who master plan. I'm going to predict that we stay away from Wednesdays anyway because of Will timing. So we could try the 15th or the 17th. Does anyone do St. Patty's Day where if we had a meeting it'd be a problem?
I can't do the 17th, but I'm
You do
French,
Patty's
so
Day,
it's not that reason.
wear green and drink green beer.
No, I'm French.
We can still do those
So
things
we-
I just said.
St.
We
Patrick
can't
was a
do
Frenchman.
Bastille Day, is that what you're saying?
St.
Okay.
Patrick was a Frenchman.
How is the 15th for Sati?
No,
Will.
That's fine.
15
Can we
is-
do it the 7 o'clock period though?
Is that better?
Yes, 6:30 is sometimes troublesome.
15th is Tuesday, right? Okay, 15th
Tuesday.
is fine, yeah.
Yeah, it works a little better for me because I always work late, so I'm always scrambling trying to get to the next meeting. So this will be fine, and we're gonna start going back soon. So, all right, so 7. I'll circulate that to see if Isabella and Isabel and Tony can do that.
Right.
All right, great. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So be it.
All right, that's Tom. And do we have a second?
Second it,
Sati, and roll call vote. Tom McCoolier,
Aye.
Satyana Sharma,
yes.
and Kat McKee. Yes, great. So thank you, everyone. We adjourn at 8:31. And appreciate your time.
Thank
and,
you.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye.